So the US is now drafting a proposal for the UN Security Council that would create a 2-year transitional government body and an international stabilization force that is authorized to use all necessary measures in the Gaza Strip. Now, according to the draft, this force would help secure border areas with Israel and Egypt. It would also train a new Palestinian police force and attempt to demilitarize non-state armed groups. So what does this mean to them? They're trying to sell it as a way that they're restoring order, protecting civilians, and to help facilitate humanitarian aid into Gaza. But what does it really mean? Well, it raises major questions about Palestinian sovereignty, as well as their self-determination and who actually controls the armed groups. So I'm going to bring up a brief article from Reuters and, try and break it down for you guys a bit more. So it says, the US may ask UN to mandate international force in Gaza for 2 years, a document shows. So the United States has drafted a United Nations resolution that approves a 2-year mandate for a Gaza transitional governance body and an international stabilization force in the Palestinian enclave. The draft, which is still being developed and could change, was shared with some countries this week, but has not yet been formally circulated to the 15-member Security Council for negotiations. This is what diplomats said. It was not immediately clear when Washington planned to do that. They're not trying to let us read it for some reason, so I'm going to pull it up on my phone and read the rest of the article. So it says, I'm still reading the article by the way guys, but you just can't see it on the screen because they're trying to make us pay, which we will not be doing. A State Department spokesperson said discussions with the UN Security Council members and other partners on how to implement President Donald Trump's Gaza plan were ongoing and declined to comment on the allegedly leaked documents. The 2-page text would authorize a so-called Board of Peace Transitional Governance Administration to establish a temporary international stabilization force, the ISF, in Gaza that could use all necessary measures, which is, code for force, to carry out its mandate. And I am reading this from Reuters, this ain't my own words, by the way. So, the ISF would be authorized to protect civilians and humanitarian aid operations, work to secure border areas with Israel, Egypt, and a newly trained and vetted Palestinian police force, which the ISF will be responsible for training and supporting. The ISF would stabilize security in Gaza, including through the demilitarization of a non-state armed groups and the permanent decommissioning of weapons as necessary. So the second phase of the Trump plan. Israel and Palestinian militants Hamas agreed a month ago to the first phase of Trump's 20-point plan for Gaza, a ceasefire in their 2-year genocide and a hostage release deal. The next phase of the plan, which the draft UN resolution would endorse, is to establish the Board of Peace and the ISF. The Trump plan also ends Hamas's governance of Gaza and says the enclave would be demilitarized. Hamas has not yet said whether it will agree to disarm and demilitarize Gaza, something that the militants have rejected before. The ISF would deploy under a unified command agreed by the Board of Peace and in close consultation with Egypt and Israel after detailed status of mission and forces agreements have been reached, according to the resolution. While the Trump administration has ruled out sending US soldiers into the Gaza Strip, it has, however, been speaking to Indonesia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, Azerbaijan to contribute to the multi-nation force. It remains unclear whether Arab and other states will be ready to commit troops to the international force, and Israel has repeatedly objected to the deployment of Turkish troops. Sorry if you can hear banging in the background, it is fireworks night and you can probably see the dog is, here, very scared. But yeah, the draft UN resolution calls on the World Bank and other financial institutions to facilitate and provide financial resources to support the reconstruction and development of Gaza, including through the establishment of a dedicated trust fund for this purpose and governed by donors. It was not immediately clear when the United States could put a draft resolution to vote in the Security Council. A resolution needs at least 9 votes in favour and no vetoes by the US, Britain, France, Russia or China to be adopted. The draft resolution was first reported by Axios. So, that's pretty much it really. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that this is a good step forward? Because I don't. I don't think this is good at all. Why are we going to get... why is America getting so much involved in this, Why has America got so much control over what happens to the Palestinians? They should be able to vote for whatever they want to vote for. They should be able to let whoever they want to run their country. Just as in any other country, there's supposed to be democracy around the world and people are supposed to be allowed to vote. So why can't you let the Palestinians decide, who they want governing their own land? I don't see any positives with this at all. But I don't know, maybe you guys think differently to me. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and remember to drop a like, comment and subscribe for more videos. Thank you for watching.